Hello and welcome back everybody to the Food Build Factory, where today we're going to take a look at the Atlas Angel. That's the girl you can see on screen right now. And as always, I'm going to show you some gameplay in the first half of the video, and in the second half of the video we're going to take a look at the perks, mutations, equipment and everything else. So let's get right into it. What this character is going to be about is we are obviously yet again taking a look at one of the new alien weapons. And to be more precise, we're taking a look at the Alien Disintegrator. And yeah, in addition to that, I wanted to take a look at a build I wanted to do for quite a while, which is basically focused heavily around agility and flying around in a jetpack. Now, we're not going to use anything like quantum spamming for unlimited amounts of jetpacking around, uh, for the simple reason basically that on PlayStation I never really found that to be all that good of an alternative, just because the quick wheel menu is a little bit clunky compared to PC, so it's not even all that possible in my opinion. Now you can do it, but I certainly can't. I'm lacking the Twitch skills, to be honest. But yeah, all of that being said, in order to really enjoy this build, you really gotta get comfortable with the jetpack. And obviously, it's not going to be perfect in every single situation. So, for example, if you're doing a lot of daily ops or something like that, you will find that the jetpack will be of limited use, just because obviously in dungeons and closed core situations you're not going to get a lot of use out of it. But really, if you want to explore the whole map and everything, yeah, for day-to-day combat, the jetpack really, it's hard to explain, but you're kind of just start to use it when it's not even necessary. But it's a whole lot of fun. That's basically it. Now, to talk a little bit more about, oh, nice, perfect weather here in Appalachia. To talk a little bit more about the more interesting part of the build, basically the Alien Disintegrator. What a weapon! I really enjoy it so far, and I'm almost certain at this point this is not the last time we'll see it. Now, I'm not quite sure if this is the perfect version to use it. I use it as a rifleman weapon on this occasion, and I think the aliens here are probably among the worst things you can fight with this weapon, just because they are a good mix of being tanky, and especially I think they have a lot of energy resistance, which obviously isn't all that handy for our Alien Disintegrator here. But yeah, the way I use this Alien Disintegrator here is I'm using it as a rifleman weapon, as I just said, and I'm using the overcharged capacitor. Quite simply, the reason is it's the most damage option for the weapon. Now you have a considerable damage drop off once you're using it as an automatic version, which is actually kind of interesting that Bethesda went down that route, because a kind of a problem in this game, in my opinion. I mean, it actually makes for some very good builds, but the crazy thing is that oftentimes the automatic versions of weapons have barely less damage than their semi-automatic counterparts, which is a big part as to why Commando is kind of the meta in this game. Like, you rarely see people run rifleman builds just because there's no real point of it. And yeah, with this weapon, Bethesda kind of changed it a little bit, which obviously, now that we are used to having such overpowered automatic weapons, is kind of a bummer for a lot of people, understandably. But in the overarching theme of things, I would say it's actually quite a good change, just because it makes riflemen a bit more viable. Now, obviously, it's a little bit too late, to be honest, because all it does is any commando build just doesn't really be interested, or isn't really too interested in the weapon, and you do have better options, but I think you get the point. Now, the interesting thing here is you do have different receivers, and all of them are kind of different. Well, you have different receivers, and all of them are kind of different. That was a real Food Build Factory sentence here. But I think what I wanted to say here is that, yeah, they really did a good job, in my opinion, to actually make a good well-balanced weapon. That's what I'm saying, basically. The overcharged capacitor we are using here obviously has the highest damage, as I just said, but it has a really, really slow fire rate, which In terms of DPS, obviously means that this weapon isn't all that great, and for a lot of people, they don't really like it. I personally never been a person who has a big problem with slow firing weapons. I actually kind of enjoy them, despite them not being all that great when it comes to enemies like the Scorch Beast, for example. But that doesn't mean the weapons are bad, it's just you're taking a little bit longer. For a lot of people, that is the deciding factor when it comes to this build, how fast can they kill something. But for me, it's all about fun, and after all, if you're not really going for boss kills like this all of the time, it doesn't really matter too much. And for day-to-day combat, fighting ghouls, fighting super mutants, and so on, I actually find it relatively interesting. Now, on this occasion, we are obviously aligned with the Brotherhood of Steel in our headcanon here. We are obviously a Brotherhood character. But yeah, that didn't really help. We had to backstab here just because I always show off how I kill these three guys for no apparent reason, to be honest. Um, yeah, I think we could have left them alive. But anyways, so back to the weapon. Now, one thing I could have done, which was my initial plan with this weapon, was to double down on it being relatively hard hitting with the overcharge capacitor, meaning that my plan was to, let's just see, I have to be a little bit quiet here because I often fuck up just because I'm not concentrated enough, but on this occasion I think we don't really have the Assault and Dominator here, and therefore, yeah, we can go just kill these guys. Back to the topic, what I wanted to say, could have doubled down on hard hitting by using something like Instigating or Aristocrats or Berserkers was the initial plan, to be honest, just because I haven't made an Berserkers character in quite a while. But I quickly found that, yeah, when it comes to the overcharge capacitor, in addition to being so slow firing, it actually has another big problem, which is its ammo capacity. It only has 6 shots, and if you're going for a stealth build, which is, by the way, definitely the way to go with this weapon, it doesn't really matter too much, because in stealth mode, you obviously have the time to reload. It might be a little bit of a problem to you, just because, yet again, it takes a little bit longer, but it doesn't really make a gameplay difference, just because, yeah, you are not going to be detected in the meantime. If, however, you want to use the weapon outside of stealth, which is the way I wanted to go here, you kind of have to get around that problem of low ammo capacity. And the way I did it was obviously use a quad weapon, quad legendary effect, sorry, which is exceedingly good on this receiver, just for the fact that, yeah, for those of you who don't know, what quad does, it quadruples the base ammo capacity of the weapon, and on top of that, you then get the additional ammo you get from your respective magazine. On energy weapons, you obviously don't have magazines. It has to do with the kind of barrel you're using, or you get the point. On this occasion, it's the receiver, and the base capacity of this rifle is from the. I think the poison and the cryo receiver are the same, and those two have like 20 or so, or 27 shots or something like that. I don't know the numbers exactly, but you get the point. So it's not just like 4 times 6 as your ammo capacity, but you actually have this ridiculous um, 81 shots per magazine, which is overkill, to be honest. Like, we're not ever going to exceed that within one round of VETs or something. But the good thing is we don't really have to worry about reloading basically in every single fight, unless we're fighting really fighting something like Earl or the Scorch Beast Queen. But I wouldn't really recommend doing that with this build here, anyways. So yeah, that also meant I had a little bit more room for concentrated fire in perception, and can really lean into that instead of just pumping a little bit more into ground pounder to improve my reload speed. So I think you get the point here. And anyways, I really didn't want to live with just 6 shots. Now, my initial plan was to get around these 6 shots by just using a faster reload version of the weapon with ground pounder, but even then it was kind of tedious. So Unless you're doing stealth, I would recommend you go with the quad version or outright go with something else. Probably the best option would be the cryo receiver. All of that being said, is obviously if you're not wanting to use this weapon as a automatic version, then you just have one option. But yeah, I wanted to go with poison just because I like how it looked. It's just underwhelming, to be honest. Cryo, actually pretty good. I really like it. Problem is, I already went with the cryo receiver on the Alien Blaster, and I didn't just want to do the exact same thing over again with a rifle instead of a pistol. So yeah, that's how this build came to fruition. And the last thing I gotta say is the reason that I don't want to use this in stealth is simply because, as you know here, I always want to do things a little bit different than most people. And for example, one thing that's really hard to find at the moment is footage of this weapon in action outside of stealth, because obviously everyone uses it in stealth, and I really wanted to take a look at the weapon outside of stealth for that reason. And despite it may looking a little bit tedious and cumbersome at times, I really am very satisfied with the weapon. I think it's very cool, very fun to use. Yet again, something I said in the Alien Blaster video, the last one I did. I actually like the slow projectiles. Obviously, if you're using them in VATS, they're not really a problem. And I think they just add to the weapon in terms of flavor. From a pure gameplay perspective, they obviously make your weapon a little bit worse, just because you can miss shots more easily and everything. But yeah, overall, I had a really nice time here. And this is a nice time to show off the jetpack, by the way. Another little thing to mention here maybe is that obviously a lot of people who go with the jetpack just go for two pieces of armor with the reduced falling damage legendary effect, meaning that you don't take falling damage overall, which on this occasion I didn't want to do simply because I have already done that first and foremost, and I really just wanted to take a look at how effective bird bones in combination with the cushioned legs is, and I gotta say it's enough. Like, if you don't want to put yourself or jump from like the train station lift or something like that, for whatever reason you would want to do that, there's not a single situation where you're going to die with just the mutation and the cushioned legs. Obviously you're going to take damage, but it's cushioning you enough so that you don't get so you don't die from fall damage. And that's basically everything I was worried about, so that's the reason you saw me take some damage there and not just none. Now, in terms of armor and everything, I mean, I'm going to go over that in just a few seconds at this point, but I just went with a full set of AP refresh, which, similar to what I said about the quad effect, is overkill. Like, 3 pieces would be the point where diminishing returns start to kick in. And yeah, the reason I went higher with that is just to make full use of our jetpack, to be honest. Now, the last thing I want to touch upon, yet again, something I'm going to talk about in just a few seconds, but in terms of perks, the most interesting thing about this build probably is something I wanted to do for quite a while, which is taking a look at how effective a VETS build can be if you're not investing a lot into luck. Now, I have done this in the past, but only with shotguns, where I make use of the Four-Leaf Clover perk, which works relatively well with shotguns. And other than that, I never really taken a look at it. But yeah, this time around I did, and it actually worked out pretty well. If you noticed, like sometimes, or some of you maybe have taken a look at it, but we were consistently getting a critical hit on every third hit, which is basically the norm for most people, unless you're going for a very specific that's build that gets a crit every second shot. So yeah, we're not really missing out in terms of damage output or anything, but I'm going to explain how we do that in a while. And yeah, that all being said, I hope you enjoyed the gameplay part of the video so far, and now we're going to take a look at the more in-depth details. Starting off with our mutations. So we do have Adrenal Reaction here, which is a leftover from another build, but talking about this a lot, adrenal reaction, with some very special exceptions, is never going to be a bad perk mutation. Just because, yeah, even if you are going for a full health build, usually you're not going to spend all of your time with maximum health, and therefore you always get some extra damage from the adrenal reaction mutation. And 50 hit points in the long run aren't a lot. They seem like they are making a big difference, but in all actuality, it's not all that noticeable. Sure, if you want to min-max for tankiness, you probably want to avoid it. Obviously, you also have the option to just go for Class Freak and reduce it to 12 HP, which is basically redundant at that point. But as I said, we wanted to go for a relatively low luck build here, and using Class Freak would be counterintuitive here. So yeah, that's why Adrenal Reaction is here. But as for the mutations that really belong to the build here are Bird Bones and Eagle Eyes, very obviously every time I do use a VATS build. Extra agility is nice for more action points to use in VATS. In addition to that, obviously we want to have very high agility on this occasion just to use our our jetpack more effectively. And in addition to that, the reduced fall speed also helps tremendously when using the jetpack. It's a little bit hard to explain, but due to the fact that you're not starting to fall so fast after you're reaching your peak with the jetpack, you actually can stay in air quite a lot longer with bird bones active. It's hard to explain and yet self-explanatory at the same time. I think you get the point here. Then Eagle Eyes, obviously we're going to use VETs all of the time and trying to do a lot of crits, so crit damage being boosted is a no-brainer here, and in addition to that, extra perception gives us a little bit more VETs hit chance, even though it's not the world. I think like 1 perception equals like 2% VETs hit chance or something like that, on top of the base VETs hit chance of our weapon, but yeah, extra perception is still nice. Then we do have Egghead. Um, the headcanon for this build is that it obviously is kind of going to be in the research wing of the Brotherhood. So we have the Science Scribe outfit and everything. We're using energy weapons and so on. Sadly, in terms of the build itself, when it comes to our special stats, that's not really reflected. But at least we do have Egghead here to just bring that point across a little bit more. And strength and endurance, well, strength is a dump stat for us. Endurance isn't really a dump stat for us, but we're less interested in getting a lot of HP from it rather than actually being interested in the perks. So yeah, we can definitely live with -3 endurance. However, it's hit or miss. If you want to have a little bit more, sorry, a little bit more experience, we are a relatively low health build, so we can definitely need that extra boost from Egghead, but if you can live without it, you can definitely leave that out. Just be wary. In terms of strength, the debuff is pretty much redundant because we already get to 1 strength due to the debuff from Bird Bones and Eagle Eyes. So yeah, it's really only the endurance. And lastly, we do have Marsupial and Speed Demon. Not a lot to say here. Faster movement speed and faster, bigger jump height. That's always beneficial, especially yet again with the jetpack. Having a higher jump means you're starting from a higher position and can make even more use out of your jetpack. So that's nice. A little bit more carry weight doesn't hurt, however, isn't going to do a ton of difference to us. And then, yeah, Speed Demon, as I said, faster movement speed is always nice. Obviously, the reload speed doesn't hurt, but on this occasion, we actually made our build completely, so we don't really have to rely on reloads at all, to be honest. So, yeah, we can live without that. Then we go over to our equipment, starting off with the weapon of the day. This is a quad alien disintegrator. As I said, we do use one with extra VATS hit chance and a VATS critical meter filling faster. Now, there were a few different ideas floating around in my head, and one I still think would be the better decision here is going for faster fire rate rather than VATS hit chance. I did use one of the alien disintegrators with the high powered receiver and faster fire rate, and I found it way more satisfying to use. However, even though I am on a custom world and can basically re-roll as often as I would like, I actually was very keen on having the quad effect and having the Vet's critical meter filling faster effect just to make our build work here. And really, the odds to get the perfect 3-star weapon are astronomical. I actually got another quad Alien Disintegrator with the Vet's critical meter filling faster, but it has 50 more Vet's crits damage, just rather than 50% better Vet's hit chance. And yeah, at that point I was sure like, yeah, I won't be able to get a quad faster fire rate Vet's critical meter filling faster version within like 2 hours or something. So that's why we have this weapon. As I said, faster fire rate would be a little bit more satisfying to use, I guess. However, it's not like 50 bets hit chance is a bad effect by any means for this weapon and this playstyle here. So what it makes, I mean, I obviously talked a lot about quad already, so I think I don't really have to talk about that anymore. Vet's hit chance is self-explanatory. We do hit more reliably. On top of that, we do have, as I said, um, concentrated fire at max rank, which is very beneficial when it comes to semi-automatic weapons like this one here. Then we do have pretty high perception. So overall, we are hitting really reliably. And the reason I wanted to have this here is due to the delay of your projectiles. It can be kind of hard to tell if you're going to hit an enemy or not. You have to wait until you actually have hit him. And if you have low perception or low hit chance with this build, with this weapon, it goes for the alien blaster as well. It can be a little bit tedious because after a while, even if you notice or not, when you start to fight the same enemies again and again, ghouls, super mutants, and so on, you really get a little bit of a memory. Uh, I'm not unconscious memory, I think it is, of how many shots you use per enemy. It's not something you actively think about, but um, if you, well, how should I explain? If you try to focus on it next time you play, you will see that you actually get a really good feeling of how many shots you do need to take out a single enemy. And usually it works pretty well just because you instantly see if it worked out or not. But when it comes to this weapon, yeah, it's a little bit frustrating to not instantly get the response from an enemy being dead or not. I think I run into something here that I can't really explain, to be honest. But yeah, better vets hit chance is nice to have for his build, sorry. And lastly, the most interesting thing here probably is Vet's critical meter filling faster. Now, it's usually one of those legendary effects that a lot of people just gloss over because if you're really interested in getting a ton of Vet's crits, most people just go for a bloodied build and go for 33 or 34 luck, I think, to just get a crit on every third shot um, with critical savvy anyways, every second shot, sorry. But yeah, for those food builds out there, I often use it just to get the same amount of crits like every second shot on a full health build without any permanent buffs or something. And on this occasion, I went a step further, and as I said, I wanted to see if it's possible to make a low luck Vets build work. And with this effect, it's actually kind of easy. We only have 8 luck, and still manage to get a crit on every third shot, which is still very respectable. So you do a crit, do 2 shots, if they hit, you have a crit again. Pretty solid. Really, the difference between having that and having a crit on every second shot is tremendous, but yeah, it you really it doesn't matter if you have like 15 or 20 luck unless you have a very specific build. It will take that amount of time to refill your critical meter. So therefore, yeah, your vet's critical meter filling faster was the way to go here and make that build work. Because really, if you're getting a crit on every fourth shot or something, you can just let it be at that point. It doesn't really add too much to your build. But this way, we can very effectively use this weapon in vet still and have low luck. So yeah, that was a lot. And going over, we're going to take a look at our armor. As I said, it's a really mixed match set. The only thing I was interested in here was having a full set of AP refresh, Now here we do have one piece of reduced falling damage, something I failed to miss. I missed to address earlier. Sorry. In addition to the cushioned legs and our bird bones mutation, we do have one piece, not two pieces of reduced falling damage. So yeah, one piece we do have. And auto stim is always nice to have as a full health player. Just one piece is never a bad idea. Then we do have cloaking, AP refresh, breaking slower right arm. We actually have two cloaking pieces here. Yet again, AP refresh. Cloaking obviously is a trash perk, but trash effect. But yeah, as I said, we didn't worry about that. One Mutant Slayer's piece. Now this is one of the better ones, to be honest. I like Mutant Slayers. And then we have one regenerating piece, which the regenerating effect is so bad and so slow that it doesn't really make a difference here, to be honest. But we might as well keep it, so it's better than nothing. Yet again, AP refresh though. All of the armor is buttressed, by the way, and as I said, the legs are cushioned, the torso has a jetpack, and that's pretty much all I can say about it. And that being said, we're now going to take a look at our perks here. As I said, strength is our dump stat. We do only have like strength 3 with blocker. This is just due to the fact how my legendary perks have worked out. So I honestly went with just one strength for the longest while here. It doesn't make a ton of a difference. We obviously try to stay away a lot further from enemies than melee distance. So 99% of the time, blocker doesn't really do anything for us because it reduces melee damage from enemies. It's really just kind of a failsafe for when shit hits the fan and we get overwhelmed, especially with ghouls. They could just wail us down if they get a head start on us. So yeah, for those times, blocker is still kind of worth it for me, in my opinion. But you can go for whatever you like here. You just have to be a little bit more cautious with your playstyle if you don't have it. Then we do have Perception. It's not really too complicated here. We do have all the Rifleman perks maxed out, Tank Killer maxed out, and Concentrated Fire maxed out. Now, up to the point of Tank Killer, it's a very standard Rifleman approach in my eyes. A little bit of extra armor penetration and stagger chance due to Tank Killer. Obviously, the armor penetration is more interesting to us. 9% stagger chance on such a low weapon doesn't do a whole lot for us. It's just a little bit of a bonus, but really what we are after here is the armor penetration. The Rifleman perks are self-explanatory, maxing out our damage. Not maxing out our damage, we are far away from that, but you get the point. And lastly, this is the point where it's going to be a little bit different from most builds you see, where on most situations, even with semi-automatic weapons, people tend to go for rank 1 of Concentrated Fire and rank 2 of Ground Pounder to get the best of both worlds. I mean, you really can do a VATS build without at least one rank of Concentrated Fire, just because otherwise you can't target individual sweet spots like heads, thrusters when it comes to Mr. Handies and so on. You get the point. So yeah, you have to do that, but the other points do run into Ground Pounder a lot of times, just to give you a little bit more DPS in the long run due to faster reload speed. On this occasion, I already said it, we went overkill with the quad effect, however we needed to. I think like a 20-shot magazine or so would be the point where I would consider, hey, okay, not using quad or anything, but due to the fact that quad is so good on this weapon, I went with the decision to just don't give a shit about reload in the first place and go all in on concentrated fire, yet again, doubling down on our VATS hit chance. Then we go over to endurance, which is relatively high at 11. However, I said it in the beginning, it's not that we really are after the hit points per se. We are more after the perks on this occasion. Fireproof, this one was a very obvious choice on this occasion for the simple reason that due to the fact we are having a jetpack on our torso, we don't have access to using dents at the same time. So explosions can be very frustrating and one-hitting you, so therefore Fireproof was an obvious choice. Then we do have Adamantium Skeleton, which is one of those perks whenever I'm not in stealth or in power armor. I'm trying to incorporate it into a build for the simple reason that it's really annoying to be staggered due to being crippled. Um, it's not the end of the world if it happens, but with Adamantium Skeleton it just doesn't happen anymore. And that being said, The other 5 points went into chem feed and chem resistance. Now, this is something I haven't really shown off during the video, but there's a ton of chems that really work well together with Bat's gameplay in this game, and I want to have the option to use them reliably here. Complete immunity to chem addiction is just nice to have. It's yet again not a big burden to keep up with Addictol and every now and then using one. The chances of getting addicted to a chem are actually really low if you're just using them casually. Really, if you're trying to do a junkies build, you start to see how much chems you have to take in rapid succession to actually get addicted. So usually you have to take like 5 to 10 chems of the same sort rapidly in like a second or so in order to get addicted. So if you're just you doing a psychotats every 8 minutes or so, you're very unlikely to get addicted in the first place. But still, it's a little bit of a convenience perk here. And Camphene, that's the more obvious one. Just doubling the duration of our chems, very beneficial if you want to use them. Making a lot of chems very efficient for like 8 minutes or so, which is basically the time of a daily operation. So really, you can get a lot out of chems if you're using Camphene, and that's the reason it is here. Then we go over to Charisma, and we have a very kind of long time not seen combination here. In the beginning of this channel, this was my go-to approach for pretty much every single build. Lone Wanderer, always nice, a little bit more AP refresh, obviously doubling down very well with all of our powered pieces and the whole theme of just using AP very effectively here, burning through a lot of AP but refreshing it very fast. So yeah, faster AP refresh, obviously nice here, and taking a little bit less damage is also a nice thing to have. And in addition to that, we do have Tenderizer, 10% multiplicative damage after our initial attack for 10 seconds is very nice to have. We do one-shot a lot of people once we do have adrenaline going on, especially if we couple in Ganfu at a point and everything comes together. We tend to start one-shotting ghouls, for example, a lot, but still, like half the enemies or even more, we don't kill in one shot. So we do get a lot of benefit from Tenderizer, and therefore, yeah, it's here. Then we go over to intelligence, and yet again, it's one of our dumb stats here, which, as I said, is a bit counterintuitive to the whole theme of the build, but other people looking at you don't see your build, so don't worry. Um, we do have batteries included here. It is kind of an obvious choice. We do run primarily on energy weapons. In fact, I wouldn't really recommend using anything else here because you will be over encumbered pretty easily. So, yeah, reducing the weight of our energy ammo is obviously a nice thing to have. Then we do have agility at 15. In all reality, it's quite a lot higher, but yeah, we do have Action Girl at rank 3. Now, as I said, we definitely went overkill with the AP refresh on this occasion. Using Lone Wanderer, Action Girl, and 5 pieces of powered gear is too much. You're really starting to get diminishing returns of the 3 pieces of powered gear. At that point, you can actually start to leave out perks. But I wanted to go all in on it on this occasion, and therefore, yeah, Action Girl is here yet again. Then we do have Marathoner. Now this is just nice so we can sprint in between fights and don't really have another big pool of draining our action points. Despite refreshing them so fast, we already try to do 2 different things that really drain on our action points, flying around a lot and using VATS a lot. So once we start to drain a lot of action points by sprinting in between enemies, it really starts to get overwhelming. And therefore, yeah, Marathoner is a nice option. I do like it on a lot of occasions. It's never going to be the best perk. There's always better decisions. But on this occasion, I think Marathoner was actually quite a good choice and worked really well together with all that we had. Then we do have Ganfu, only at rank 1. Now, this is one of those things where, as I said, Marathoner not necessarily the best choice. We could have gone for rank 3 of Ganfu instead. However, um, once we take a look at luck, I mean, I can give you a little bit of a sneak peek for those of you who can't look 5 centimeters to the right on the screen. We don't have Grim Reaper Sprint for once, so actually it's relatively rare that we do get a chain of Gunfu going on for more than 2 enemies. So yeah, Gunfu at rank 1 was enough. I don't really look for the extra damage. I mean, 10% is already nice, but we didn't really get a lot of use out of higher ranks of Gunfu on this occasion. So that's why we went with rank 1 here. Then we do have White Knight. This is, yeah, similar to Adamantium Skeleton. Whenever I'm not in power armor and I am not in stealth, I do like to use White Knight just to make it easier to have a fully intact set of armor. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't want to repair my armor all that much, so that's why that's here. And lastly, we do have Adrenaline, because of course we do. Adrenaline is always a good pick. Unlike 99% of builds, if you don't have anything better to do, just use Adrenaline. It's always a good pick. That being said, we're now going over to luck, and this is, as I said, probably the most interesting part of this video because we are a fully vet-centered build and only have 8 luck. So we really work with the bare minimum here. We do have starch genes because that's something we just had to use in order to keep our mutations and not get any new ones, so this is not a lot of talk worth. But what we do have here is critical savvy and better criticals. So better criticals, obviously if we want to use vets, we want to use our crits as soon as they are available. Doing a lot of crits means boosting them is obviously a nice thing. So better criticals. And critical savvy, now this is where the magic happens. Like, as I said, critical savvy and in the combination with the vet's critical meter filling faster makes it so within 2 shots we can refresh our critical meter on this occasion, even though we only have 8 luck. I'm not really sure how low you can go with luck in order to still get it within 2 shots, but I think you could actually go lower even. So yeah, that's all it takes. So we have a crit on every 3rd shot, and that's it. I think I very rarely have luck as low as 8, even on heavy gunners or so. And now we're going over to our legendary perks. This is the last thing we're going to take a look at. Agility and Perception. Agility is already at 15 base, so we just use that for more action points. Bit better stealth, but we're not necessarily using them. However, I'm going to get to that in a second. So yeah, this just boosts our agility passively from 15 to 20. On top of that, we do have under armor and everything. So yeah, we actually sit at around like 26 agility, I think. Then we do have perception. Now this was initially at 13, I'm pretty sure, or 12. So we do get a little bit of a passive benefit from perception here, but it also helps us to really get all 15 perk points used. Then we do have legendary luck. Obviously, since we're not having it maxed out, this is basically one of our perks here. This is pick one, either critical savvy or better criticals. Then we do have what rats convenience perk. Obviously, you can definitely live without it, but I like to have it. So yeah, it just makes it so rats aren't too much of a problem for us, unlike unless we want to go into a nuke zone or something. But other than that, you really never have to worry about rats anymore. Then we do have legendary endurance, yet again, something that just gives us access to a little bit more perks. And for the last perk here, we do have follow through. Ranged sneak attack damage increases damage to target by 40% for 10 seconds. Seems a little counterintuitive. Obviously, this isn't a stealth build, as I made a big point about talking about that. But one thing I do kind of like to do, even on full health builds, is having follow through for the simple reason that you don't even have to be all that stealthy to start encounters, as long as you're ranged, obviously, with a stealth attack. And you don't have to stay in stealth for the effect to be active. Like, you just have to hit the target once from stealth, and after that, for the next 10 seconds, you do way more damage. And this is something that can really help you if you're targeting tougher enemies like behemoths, scorch beasts, and so on. It's really relatively easy to sneak up on them and get one shot in before they detect you. Oftentimes, you can even get multiples in. especially on this occasion where we do have a ton of agility, which means we are actually very stealthy for the fact that we don't have invested into it at all. And on top of that, the weapon is completely silent, so it's a perfect stealth weapon if you want to use it like that. But on this occasion, it just makes it so we have a little bit of a better time engaging tougher enemies. And yeah, that's it. Like I'm pretty sure there's so much more I could have talked about when it comes to this weapon. I really find it interesting, and as I said, it's not the last time we have seen the alien disintegrator. We will see. I want to take a look at the poison version definitely, but I really need to find a good use for it. But until then, see you next time, guys, and bye.